Hello and welcome to The Real Bottom Line. My guests today are Douglas Pinnell and Anthea Mumby, and we're going to talk about some of the unique ways they as a couple have navigated entrepreneurial coupleship. You know, they've been working together forever, and so they have learned some tips and tricks along the way that I know will help you if you are working with your spouse.
This is The Real Bottom Line, where we tell entrepreneurial stories about true grit and perseverance from frontline business owners themselves. Now, let's get started.
Okay, so today we're talking to Anthea and Douglas, and it's going to be a bit of a different roundtable / webinar. We're going to conduct it almost like an interview. So, Douglas, how long have you and Anthea been working together, and how did it happen?
I guess first of all, define working together.
In the same company, in the same company.
Understood, because we've been together 35 years now, 30 of them married next month. And so obviously we've done a lot of different work, but the actual working in the corporation, I started in 97, working in the insurance brokerage with her. Mm-hmm. So, we're talking about, that's 25 years.
Yeah. Now, question for you before I switched over to Anthea. When you tell people you've worked with your spouse for 25 years, what is the most common reaction you hear?
Some variant of, I could never do that.
And that's awesome. Is that true for you too, Anthea?
Oh, yes. Yes. I get the looks like, what? Are you crazy? How can you do that? Oh my goodness. So yeah, it happened again yesterday, actually, on a conversation that I had. So all the time.
That's awesome. So you guys owned a property and casualty focused insurance business, but you also do group benefits and life insurance. Is that correct? Did I get that kind of correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And Anthea, you bought the business from your dad. Was Douglas working in the business when you bought it from your dad?
Yes. So Douglas had joined, I think it was about 4 years prior to the sale of the business from my parents to us ultimately. So yeah. He had
That's kind of interesting. So it's a family business transition that happened.
Yes.
Douglas, what was it like to join a business when you've got this on the go, knows what she's doing, all that female who is working with her dad? Like, what was that like?
Not any real problem, because one of the things, and I know Anthea will talk about it more later is that we started off, whether by good fortune or good planning, that we started off with our own focus within the business. There's lots of crossover, of course, but I had my thing, which was the life and health side of the business, and she was more focused on the property and casualty side, sort of thing. So we had a lot, again, the crossover, but I had my lane, she had her lane, and just like driving on the highway, as long as you stay in your lanes, there aren't any problems.
Yeah. So did you find joining the business, were you scared? Like, what were some of the thoughts that as you joined that you said, I must understand how this will work before I can make this commitment? Did you have some of those thoughts?
First of all, I don't scare easy, but
well, that's good.
I mean, I started off my chunk of my adult life with a redhead or whatever, right? So if I'm not scared of this, I'm not going to be scared. No, I mean, the reason that I joined in particular is I had my own business on this side, which was a business, an industry in transition. So I recognized early that it was going to shift and was considering some alternatives. And with knowing that Anthea's father was was getting on and was looking at going to be transitioned at some point, being able to come in and start working on that particular side that was more his focus as well was just, again, was kind of a logical progression. Keep it in the family. They'd had some challenges finding other parties that would do it and do it the way they believed in business, which coincide with my way. I mean, one of the things that Dennis always said, and it was my philosophy as well, was, look after the client, and the commissions will look after themselves. So as long as you're having that center focus, and that, again, that was how I built my sales career. It's the only career I've ever had was in sales, unless you count some labor stuff when you're a teenager. So there was no fear, and it was literally just go in, do what I've always done, just with a new product.
One of the things you did say, I think that's important, Douglas, is you talked about you didn't use the words, but I feel like there was an alignment of core values about what you believed was important in the company, what was important to how a company was run. And Thea, can you talk, because now that you've exited that business and sold it, but core values has remained one of those key pieces that has helped navigate, your future and making sure that things ran smoothly so that you would make money.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the number one core value, and we had several, but the one that I think would be most, the asset of the business, if you will, or the guiding principle, was around putting clients' interests first.
Mm-hmm.
We always had that focus, and we always had that drive to keep improving the client experience and to just keep showing up for them and supporting them, being part of their community. So and I think, to your question to Douglas, that's part of why the succession or the entry for him was so easy, because, that shared value around client focus.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, the title of this session is Power Sharing for Profitability in your couple partnership. Do you think that sharing core values is integral to the success of an entrepreneurial couple?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to have that share, those, agree on those values up front, and keep the awareness there, and keep committing to them, and make sure your team is aware of them, your clients. It's foundational for success.
Number one.
To get anywhere, you have to both be heading the same direction, right? You can't go say, okay, I'll meet you at 5:00 and then just drive off. You have to go, no, I'll meet you at 5:00 at blank.
Yeah.
You may take some slightly different routes there, but at the end of the day, everything is focused on getting to that blank. So in this case, it was, looking after, customers, the clients first, and then from that, everything else would flow. And that was relationship, that was product, that was services. All of those things ultimately were focused on that one destination.
Where did you guys butt heads? Because 25 years, there's not a chance this was smooth sailing 100% of the time. Or if it was, I'm gonna go get you a prize of some sort. But I think that naturally happens, right? So where did that happen for you guys, Douglas?
So, I can make the typical joke or whatever. There's no butting heads, whatever, just do whatever your wife says.
Happy wife, happy life, Douglas. That's what I hear.
I think more often that was kind of the parts of the directional, if you will, from a growth perspective, or we should do this, or when it came, as is even in marriages themselves, is money related things. Do we, I think we should do this, and Anthea would have a different view on spending that money, and it wasn't necessarily that I was spending it and she didn't want to. There were occasions where things that were very much what she wanted to do, spend the money on, and then we would have to debate those and make decisions, but ultimately had to do what we figured was best for the organization as a whole.
And did you find yourself revisiting core values? Like, if that's our number one strategy for, power sharing for profitability, do you find yourself going back to those when you had these disagreements about money, Anthea?
Yes, we would come back to, so if it was something like, for example, investing in a fancy new technology, software, right? And then one of us wanted to be, in that case, that was more me that was saying, let's make the investment, let's do it, and then Douglas would be more around, well, what's this really going to do for the clients? Like the client,
Yeah.
right? How is it going to actually make their experience better? You know, and he would probably say the same thing to this day, looking at some of, the solutions in that industry is, is it really going to solve for some of the challenges that clients experience? And yeah, so that would be kind of where we would say, okay, come back to the core values around, client experience. And, we also had a core value around like, have fun and get it done. Right. So we're going to have fun doing this, but we're also going to be acting, quickly as a smaller organization. So, does a new technology solution allow us to fulfill on that core value? Probably in that case, no. I mean, I would say if that would be one major decision we made over the years that I would look back and say, no, that was not the best decision for that business. Certainly not at that point in time. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Our second strategy we identified was really knowing yourselves, right? And I think that, half of this game of business is an inside game. It's around our heads and what we like to do and things of that nature. I think it gets compounded when we're working with our spouses, So I know that some of the assessments my husband and I have taken have been instrumental in helping us understand how to communicate and what lanes, to Douglas' point, we may want to play in. Douglas, what was your favorite assessment tool you did and why?
The favorite assessment tool, I don't remember the names on all of them. A lot of times, one of the best experiences that we had relative to a tool is Anthea and I went to a business couple retreat thing, and they did an exercise based on the Colby model, and they picked people that were strong, had a group of 4 people that had strengths, where their top strength is one of each of the 4 categories, and then had them do an exercise together. And then you watched how they interacted with one another, because the quick start was just starting to do stuff with not even understanding what the project was yet. The analytical or the fact finder was sitting there, trying to understand what all the stuff in front of them was. The tactile one, I forget what that.
The last number, yeah.
The last number, whatever. So the engineering type of minded person or whatever was actually trying to figure out how they went together, and was being driven nuts by the person who was just starting to move stuff, and so on. So seeing that and understanding how, Anthea and I's Colby's happen to be fairly similar. So again, it created its own problems, but we came to understand better. But we both are high in this quick start. So we would both start running off, going back to that when we're heading to where are you going on the trip? We both start running off. So, oh, by the way, where are we going? And that, so understanding a little bit, okay, yeah, we have that. And that's why we sometimes, for example, the technology example, Anthea maybe would rush into, because it looked like, it was a shiny new bauble that looked like it would do some fun things, and without necessarily doing all that research that we could have had. And if one of us had been maybe more balanced in one of those other areas.
Fine, yeah. My husband and I also did the Myers-Briggs, and we're both ENTJs, which is the extrovert. Like, it's an extrovert. The title in the book is called Field Marshal, right? So we both see the end destination, and we both see every step of how to get there. The problem for us is that we both see the same destination, but our steps are completely different. So that is where some of our conflict arises, but we have to work our way through that. Anthea, the Colby we just talked about, is there another tool that you've used that you've liked from an assessment perspective?
Yeah, so there's a couple. Another one that Douglas and I did just for ourselves was called the wealth dynamic. And I don't recall all the categories in that one, but what I do recall is that Douglas and I are both stars, meaning we like to be on stage, we like to be presenting, and we also like to shine a light on the people around us.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of put them in the spotlight and, say, hey, look at, it could be a team member, like look at what a great job they're doing, or it could be even a client. So we also discovered through doing that assessment that we as stars, both being stars, we needed to have our own stages.
Mm.
And I recall a particular event where we had client base that were they were different professional associations, and they would have their annual conferences. We were always very involved in their conferences as sponsors. And there was one year there was a speaking opportunity, and there were two associations that were having the conferences basically in the same date, right? And so it was crossover. And so what ended up happening was Douglas was on stage presenting with one association I think he was in Ottawa that year. And I was off in Winnipeg for another association presenting on, there were different topics around insurance, or I think it was succession planning in Douglas's case. And I was talking about, but the point is we each had our own stage, and this is where the divide and conquer sort of played out. He was giving his presentation, growing relationship on that side, and I was doing the same for a different group of clientele, which ultimately elevated the business because of the relationships and the expertise and yeah.
Are you looking to boost your business value beyond just increasing profit? Introducing the Business Value Amplifier, a revolutionary 10-week program designed to help you uncover proven methods to enhance your company's worth. Discover how to transition from feeling unsure about maximizing your business value to becoming a savvy operator who deliberately and methodically pulls the levers of value building. With the Business Value Amplifier, you can expect to take control of your business's growth and be intentional about enhancing its value. Whether you're planning to sell or simply want a more vibrant, predictable, and lucrative operation, this program is for you. Don't miss out on this opportunity to amplify your business's value in just 10 weeks. Go to blackstarwealth.com/amplify and apply for the Business Value Amplifier today. That's blackstarwealth.com/amplify. Your business will thank you.
I know we did a session in this before, Anthea, and we talked about role definition, and really that comes back to Douglas's point about having a lane. Right. And it's so easy on the technical side, meaning what is your subject matter expertise, to potentially carve out those lanes for yourselves. But when we think about, I think about the E-Myth sometimes, and they talk about the 3 different roles we wear, like the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And when we think of the entrepreneur, like that big vision, that big level thinking, were there lanes that you shared? And then how did you do that? Right? Did someone do more marketing and sales? Was someone like, did you break up the big roles of HR, accounting, those types of things as well? Like, how did you break up some of those running of the company versus doing the work?
Yeah, the operational side of things. So Douglas always very technically inclined. We both enjoy sales and client development and client experience. But if we break that down further into sort of the operational subsets, Douglas is like the tech, guru. He gets it. He's good at it. He can walk by a computer that's acting up, and all of a sudden it plays nicely and it does what you want it to do.
Oh my God. And I know exactly what happened to you, Anthea, because you tried everything. Like, you did 10 different of the right things. It didn't do a thing. And Douglas went over and looked at it and it went, oh, I'll work now.
Yeah, fairy dust. He's got like this fairy dust that kind of floats around with him as he approaches the computer.
Technology. And literally that was the thing within our team. They would like, I don't understand. You just walked over. You didn't even touch it sometimes.
It must be your electromagnetic aura of some sort.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so. But yeah,
But did you share any lanes? Like business direction? I mean, obviously that ties back to your vision and goals, but any of those lanes you shared for driving the business as a whole forward?
Definitely the visionary part of it, like the overall, like we're both strong in strategic planning and thinking. So we really were good at sort of bringing that whole piece together. Yeah. And then sort of, figuring out what each of our parts would be within that.
Yeah, I would say that actually, if anything, was you staying in, supporting the other in their lane, probably as much as more than anything else. So Anthea was a predominant force for the marketing. Everything that anyone's ever saw that came out of Mumby was, Anthea was the brainchild, or the creator on it. I would support she would send something to me, and then I would reword it maybe from a little more client centric. As and in some cases, or we say, I'm thinking about doing something about this, and then we would kind of bandy the concept around a little bit, and then from that would come up with that idea, and then she would take it and run with it and make it happen. When the technical side of things, the softwares and things like that, she came, the one, for example, was a call recording technology. We were on a trip. She saw an article in a magazine about this technology. It happened to be here where we lived. So we, reached out to them, got some information. So she started that ball running, but that went into, the tech side, more Douglas's, area of expertise. So I did the analytics on, is this going to work? How do we connect it in? Working with the service provider to get it all up and running, and so on and so forth. But then we, in the interim, would also talk about the cost. Was that worthwhile? And that was back to the finance. So that was where we would just keep back and forth against allowing it the person who had the strength. Anthea would never would have said to you, no, you're doing the tech wrong, because she knows she doesn't know the tech the way I know the tech. And I would never say, no, I think we're doing our marketing wrong, because I know that she did all the studying and all the work to build up our marketing stuff. I would complement her capabilities, and she would complement my capabilities. And that's the basis of the word synergy, right? You take two and you get more than what I can lift 100 pounds. She can lift 100 pounds. Between the two of us, we can lift 3. So right, there's that capability that's what synergy brings to things.
I love that, Anthea. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you got that, like that whole, the synergy, and like your brain. I've got some of these memories floating back through my brain now as you're talking, Douglas. And we really, I think, for the most part, did a really good job with leveraging our skills and balancing between like the marketing and the biz dev. And the other thing that Douglas also brought to the table really well was like the in-person. Like I would do the marketing in terms of like getting things out the door, whether it was digital or hard copy. But Douglas was the one who would show up at the events. And he's like the energizer bunny who can keep going until 3. He can be on that trade show floor at 7 in the morning, and he can be out there until 3 o'clock the next day and do it for 5 days in a row.
Oh my goodness.
No problem.
Yeah.
No, he could pull, and I would be like, no, I would be doing all the strategic pieces ahead of time, and then I would be getting the team would go in to support him as the main, again, the star, right? But the team needed to go as well, so I would be the one doing low risk practice with them, scripting them, getting them ready so that they felt comfortable that they weren't going to show up to this event in Toronto and have hundreds or thousands of clients come and say hi, and they would be like, oh, what do I say? What do I do? What's my, like, sort of my pitch, or how do I approach kind of thing? So that really worked well in terms of that, the synergistic piece.
That I love how you guys have done that. I've never asked you guys this question, but I want to know the answer about meeting rhythms. Did you have a meeting rhythm with just the two of you? Or did you, and or what was your meeting rhythm with your staff? How was your meeting rhythms?
Yeah. So every morning we had our morning huddle. So that was
Who
our
was at
quick,
that one? Who was at that, Anthea?
everybody, all team,
Okay.
all
Yeah.
hands on deck, just a
Mhm.
5-minute check-in. It was kind of like, okay, tell us a win from yesterday, right? Start with some positivity.
Yeah.
Could be about yourself, could be about a coworker, whomever. And then, what's on tap for today. So that would be like, is there something we need to deal with? There is a client issue we need to brainstorm around. Is there somebody off sick? That type of thing. So those were every single day. We did those. And then we had a monthly all team meeting as well. That was really around going back to our vision as a company. What were we doing? What were we accomplishing? Getting their feedback and ideas about, because Douglas and I being quick starts, always ideas. So, chatting with the team, instead of driving them crazy every single day with the latest 500 ideas we had come up with, and we're probably talking about in the shower at 6 o'clock that morning.
Yep.
We would try, collect those ideas and then, bring them into a team discussion and then talk about, what were some possibilities or some obstacles around those ideas before implementing them, and getting them to put up their hand and say, I will be the champion of that, right? So it was less on the two of our shoulders. And then I think, was Monday always the two of us that, we would try and meet, maybe it was every 2 Mondays that Douglas and I would have our owners meeting together and just, go through.
Yeah, I want the agenda on that one, Anthea. Tell me what you went through.
I would say this, cut in for a second there. So there was regular meetings where we would talk about the high level things. I found something about a software, whatever, maybe, or moving forward on it. But I mean, Anthea did touch on it quickly there. I mean, we did, and it was kind of a joke. And it's also one of the big struggles related to, going back to the beginning of this, the working together part, is where is the separation of church and state? Where does home and work kind of get divided? And it blurs very easily. So, and as Anthea said a minute ago, she's doing the makeup, I'm getting ready in the morning, and we're in our first business meeting of the day, right? 6 o'clock, we're in the same room, we're looking forward to the day, and an idea comes up, or, oh, I have to do that. Have you done this yet? And the dialogue would begin. Right.
That's so funny. Great segue, because that was my next question. But was it work-life balance or was it work-life integration?
Ooh. I would say more. You go ahead. You take.
There's the reality, I would say, is probably it was more work than life balance or integration, period, because the difficulties, and again, you're trying to make something into something.
Yeah.
And it's exciting, a lot of times as well. So, there's the whole thing, if you really enjoy what you're doing, work isn't work, sort of thing. So if we're enjoying what we're doing, whatever, then there would be that morning. Okay, yeah. So today they're coming to install that system. Right? Oh, yeah. So that would be a tech, sort of thing. Andy says, okay, so I've got this new e-blaster doing. We're doing a split test on it. So she would start to talk about it, and that would start right out of the gate, first thing in the morning, and go there, and then it wouldn't necessarily blur. It would blur through into dinner a lot of times as well. So home life was the personal time was more the after everything else had run out. But often we were enjoying it, so it didn't feel as bad as people might think about it. When you think about, a lot of people with jobs, they go in, they come home, they kind of.
It was a discrete stop, right? Yeah.
Right. Whereas this wasn't necessarily there. So it was a pro and con. There were good things about it and there were bad things about it. But overall, again, we made it through 25 years to working together that way, and the 35/30 that we've been together as a whole. And without waking, neither one of us has woken up yet wondering why the other person is holding a pillow. So
Happy to hear that, Douglas. Happy to hear about that. Was there a point in the business where you were able to have more of a personal life? Like, was there a cycle or a growth curve, and then you're like you could not be as focused on the business all the time? Anthea?
Yeah, I think over time we learned like we needed to, set some boundaries in place and not have like that constant like, the 6 a.m. which was funny because this morning was the first time that Douglas and I did that whole, like we haven't done that for years, where it was like, okay, we're both getting ready at the same time we were talking about ideas and stuff. And I was like, I've done this for quite a few years. This is interesting. But we learned that we needed to kind of structure things a little differently.
Yeah.
I think we always did well on like the integration piece. Like, if we think of like our daughter, for example, like if there was something going on where, she had something she was doing or she needed us or whatever, like we made it work. Right. And honestly, like in her younger years, like Douglas was more the one that would, swoop off and take care of, whatever needed to be taken care of on that side of things. But, as time went on and we got to a certain point with the business at a certain level, we felt, okay, the trajectory is good. The results are good. Now we don't need to have our feet on the gas pedal that much. And let's have more balance. And, we decided we wanted more time off, right? We wanted to have more quality, vacation time and free time. And then, we started to put those structures in place to allow us to do that, and even say things like to each other, like, we would be in the hot tub and it was, again, usually me that was the guilty one that would say, oh, well, what, blah, 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 business. And Douglas would gently, remind me, hey, we're in the hot tub now. It's Sunday morning. We're not having a business talk, like, boundary, right?
Yeah.
And the opposite would be true in the sense of like when we would go on vacation as a family, and I would be like, no, we're off. We're completely off. We're not working. We're not checking emails. That's it. Hard stop. And I wouldn't, but he would check on his terms. He did it his way, but he would be checking like for emails or handling things that he needed to handle. And I just learned to go, okay, like, cool. It's like he's not sucked into it where it's like he's coming to the the dinner table in Italy and talking to me about a client or something. Like he would just be emailing his assistant or whatever he needed to do. He would take care of it, but it didn't like infiltrate into our personal couple time together.
And it probably, Douglas, did that, the ability to do that and just check in and kind of, if there was, keep the fire low, did that increase your peace of mind and engagement the rest of the time on your vacations?
I think just like anything, the known is much easier to deal with than the unknown, because the sits in the back of your head and does, is there something going on? Is something going on? Yeah. And I think also, Frank, related to what Anthea said, giving her that peace of mind too is, yes, I was the one that typically did it, checked it, but there are times when she was checking because she was looking for something, but it tended to be more me that would do it. And then if she needed to be, and that gave her the peace to be able to disconnect better in the same way.
Yeah.
So between knowing that things were okay, her old saying, fire, flood, or blood. So if there wasn't any of those, don't reach out to her when we were on holidays. Whereas they would, could maybe just call, text, email me or whatever about sparks. It wouldn't necessarily be fire, but that way I could put the sparks out before they became fire, and so on. So it gave us all that little bit of extra peace. Be able to enjoy those times the way you said. Yes, we can then just go, okay, now I'm good for the rest of the day and I don't worry about it, so we can just go.
Yeah. In my business, I do risk tolerance questionnaires, usually around market investments type of deal, but I think it's important to understand the risk profiles of each of us in our business, especially in entrepreneurial couples. Do you guys share a similar risk profile? And how have you navigated any differences?
So I mean, I would say yes. And if we go back to the quick start, it kind of correlates into risk profile in
Are
some
you a higher
respects.
fact find, Douglas, than Anthea?
I'm
Uh,
one higher on the fact find. I'm
Okay.
I'm a 6, and I think you're a 4, aren't you, on fact find? Yeah.
Again, always I'm analytical, but I
Yes.
don't need. But fact find in the Colby model isn't about your ability or whatnot, to deal with data, and it's actually how much data you need to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
You need no data to move forward. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, going back to the idea we're going somewhere together. I'm okay to just jump in the car and then start driving. So where are we going to go?
Yeah.
Anthea wants to at least have an idea that we're heading east.
Hey.
Before we go there, but we'll still jump in the car and just kind of start heading east and then figure out where we're going. And obviously that's pure analogy. We don't typically, although we have done, we used to do what they would call a country drive. So just get up Sunday morning and get in the car and just go somewhere and see what's new. But the analytical, is a strength that I have. And I think I said to you before, I mean, there's other tests and I'm a little unusual in that I'm an amiable analytical. So I can literally spend all day playing with numbers or spend the entire day at a conference talking to hundreds of people.
Yeah.
They both work that way. So the needing, I forget exactly the
It was about the difference in your risk tolerances. Like,
so risk tolerance wise, we would kind of both start, and then I would maybe be, because of the analytical side, I would do the analytics of whether it was worthwhile doing. So the phone recording system, what's going to be the benefit of that? We know what those are. What's it going to cost us in terms of dollars, effort, et cetera? Is that worth what we're going to gain on it? So we would, but there's an example of a risk. Do we spend thousands of dollars on that sort of thing? And sometimes we made good ones, sometimes we didn't. But I think we're both, from a business perspective, we're relatively high risk takers, because you just you throw enough things in the air, some of them are going to land on fertile ground. So
yeah. Hey, growth-oriented business owners, are you ready to take your business to new heights and connect with like-minded entrepreneurs? I would like to introduce you to the Elite Growth Community, your ticket to a world of learning, sharing, strategizing, and problem solving. Our monthly live events will bring together successful business owners just like you, who are making over 6 figures and have been in the game for at least 2 years. And the best part, your first event is absolutely free. So try it out and see if it's the right fit for you. And after that, for just $17 a month, you'll unlock unlimited access to our exclusive community, where you can accelerate your business growth like never before. No commitments, month to month. Don't miss out on this amazing opportunity to join the Elite Growth Community at blackstarwealth.com/elite. Sign up today and watch your business soar to a new heights. That's blackstarwealth.com/ELITE. Hope to see you soon. Anthea, do you have areas you think that your risk tolerance, other than the direction you're driving, where you guys are different from a risk tolerance perspective?
No, I think for the most part, we're pretty aligned on risk tolerance. I think it's, sometimes, you go, well, I don't know, the judgment, I guess, of like, okay, that wasn't the best decision, but I don't think it really has, like Douglas said, I don't think it's impeded our risk, our willingness to experiment and try and, keep trying new things and seeing what happens.
I do love that about you guys. And I love, I know I have a great risk tolerance questionnaire that helps couples understand their individual profiles and then where they overlap. So the fact that you guys have had these discussions and explored it is so important, I think, to ongoing communication with entrepreneurial couples. So I think that's a key thing. I have a strange question for you guys now. So I have this new hypothesis around, I believe your business is an asset to be grown, nurtured, and at some point potentially harvested. You guys have been through this. Is there a point where was your business ever your baby? And if so, is there a point where it transitioned from being your baby to being an asset that you were going to monetize? What happened there, if at all?
Ooh, definitely baby for me for a long time. I mean, I grew up in that, right? Since I was, 13. So it really did feel like a baby for a long time. And sometimes, it still is kind of like, that it actually came up on a conversation I had earlier today, and we were talking about this whole thing of, having a business that's a baby. So, but ultimately, did it become more of like thinking of it as an asset? Yes, absolutely. Probably, in the last, I guess, probably 10, 12 years before we sold it. That was, I guess, after it kind of went from, okay, we bought it from my parents, when I was in, what would I have been, early 30s, maybe 34, 35. And then, and which was also when I was also a new mom to, our daughter. And so it was still kind of like, okay, I've got the business baby and my daughter baby. And that kind of was the case, I think, for a few years. And then it just kind of, I can't remember what it was that made it like us to start think differently. Maybe it was Douglas kind of looking at it more from kind of not like a different perspective, bringing his perspective in to say like, okay, this is an asset. Like, how are we going to grow it as an asset and start thinking differently and approaching things differently?
When did that switch? Did you have the same affinity, Douglas, going in where you joined the baby already growing? I mean, you didn't birth the baby. You came in and became the stepfather to the baby, if you will.
So I think, to go back to Anthea, to add to her babying aspect of it in the early as well, she also had the legacy burden, if you will, of it too.
Yeah.
Of it. This is not only is it my baby, but it was my dad's sort of thing. So that was a piece that she had to deal with as well. When I came into it, I didn't come into it as the baby. Yeah, so probably more that stepdad analogy might work well there, because yes, it was a going concern. I just joined the team. We didn't own it yet or anything else. It was, her father's business. She hadn't started to buy it yet or anything else. So I just came in but we knew it was a transition into the future. I think for a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, though, that it is this balance of baby asset, because you get invested, you put so much of yourself into things to try to get it going, you sacrifice in the early years and those sorts of things. You put so much into building the relationships with the clients and whatnot that, when someone else within the team does something that maybe damages that relationship, of service failure or whatever, it's hard not to take that personally. So I think there's for a lot of people, there's a lot of, it is your baby period, but recognizing at the same time that it is this asset. The reason you're putting all that effort into it is the growth of that asset. And, I think most people probably struggle with that line where it works back and forth, and that church and state analogy, from earlier, the work-life balance thing. There are times when it's over the line this way, and there's times when it's over the line that way. But ultimately, it has to become an asset at some point, because what else are you going to do with it?
Well, how are you going to fund your retirement life after work, or even, whether you're even just slowing down your work and becoming the executive chairman, so to speak,
Right.
It still requires a business that can be valuable.
And just one of the sayings I've learned through I think maybe even Tony that said, you never seen a U-Haul following a hearse.
Right.
Right. So all of your stuff in a business is a form of stuff, is something that at some point has to move on to something different, whether you wind that business down or you sell it because of the value that's in it. if it's something that can continue without you, there is a point where it has to go away.
Yeah.
You can't do it, forever, period, one way or another. So it has to transition. So be accepting that, like a child growing up. Like no one, it's funny. When they're new, they're awesome, they're here, they're everything about it, and then you go through a phase where it'll be good when they grow up and I don't have to do these things anymore. And then they get to the I'm ready to go out the door phase, and it's like, but no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's very similar in many respects there too. But you have to, because you have to set them free. You have to set the business free.
Oh, we could go on forever about that part, but I think I want to get back to today we talked a lot about power sharing for profitability in your couple relationship, and we dug deep on core values. We dug deep on knowing yourself, and we dug deep on staying in your lane and how to be a key contributor that way. As we wrap up, if you had one key thing that you would like to say, you've got an audience of entrepreneurial couples in front of you. What is one key wisdom that you'd love to share with them, Douglas?
Probably the one key wisdom that would suggest with any couple, period, is, talk, the Stephen Covey, listen to understand, not to respond. Sort of thing, to be able to have these conversations. Staying in the lanes only works when you both know, say, going back to that you're going to the same place.
Yeah.
Or where the other person is going before they come back to the same place. The power sharing, all of those things only ultimately work as long as there is dialogue between the parties.
Excellent. Anthea?
I would say that, it can be done. You can improve your relationship. You can grow a profitable business together. When people look at you and say, how can you do that? And, you're crazy that you're doing this. And, oh my goodness, like, don't believe it. And know that, it's doable. It's all how you approach it, how you structure things, your roles, the boundaries, communication, everything you talked about today. So I would hope to inspire others and know that this is possible.
So the real bottom line here today is all about communication. And whether you're working with an entrepreneurial couple, as a part of an entrepreneurial couple, or with anyone, open dialogue, shared values is going to be the game changer. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to The Real Bottom Line. This show is produced by Black Star Wealth. Executive producer, Wendy Brookhouse. To learn more about the show or to contact us, go to blackstarwealth.com.